Welcome everyone to the 12th round of the GP4 Offline Championship 2013 season, the Italian Grand Prix here at the infamous Monza circuit. I'm your host for today, George, and welcome to round 12. Last round, round 11, the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa was won by Florian Volker after a little battle with George in the Mercedes. So we are here at Monza. So Volker having taken the championship lead after winning last time out in Belgium, with Waze Kuba losing ground, Miguel Gal also losing ground behind as well. Robbie Ionescu moving up to 4th, with George moving up to 6th. The top 7, well top 8 I should say, still in the battle for the Drivers' Championship. It's been a fascinating season so far, and here Italy could it get even better. So we're looking at a track map. We've got the infamous Parabolica, we've got the first 2 chicanes, we've got Ascari, we've got the 2 Lesmos. Let's have a look at the lap of the Italian Grand Prix. We're coming up to the first chicane. We've had a number of incidents here over the years. Here's a battle back in 2007 between Jiri Mata and Jay McKenzie, where McKenzie got away with some contact there. As we head into the second chicane, where there can be incidents here as well. This an infamous crash back in 2009 with both Force Indias, having won the last time out at Spa back in 2009, collided. Now coming into the Ascari chicane, where last year we had the infamous crash between Waze Kuba, whose car was completely destroyed, to say the least. But anyway, so the race tyres that will be used is the super soft and obviously the wets and the intermediates in case it obviously rains. So the driver of the day was given to Florian Volker for winning last time out, with the race rating given a 6 out of 10. But anyway, here is the starting grid for the Italian Grand Prix, with Jay McKenzie once again qualifying on pole, Florian Volker alongside him in second position. Joseph Willis third for Ferrari, with Miguel Gal in 4th place for Red Bull. Moving on to the third brother grid, it is Waze Kuba, followed by Alex Southgate for McLaren, qualifying from him. As we move on to the fourth row of the grid, it's Will Miller for Lotus and George Roque for Mercedes. On to the fifth row of the grid, we have Robert Ionescu and Vedran Vedrina for Lotus and McLaren respectively. As we move on to the sixth row of the grid, is Ricky Park-Rosane and Kirosima De Rosa. As we move on to the seventh row of the grid, I should say, William Duncan is in 13th, followed by Frankie Gambit in 14th position. Amar Carr is in 15th, followed by David Greenwood in 16th. We move on to the ninth row of the grid, I should say, Oliver Glazebrook in 17th, followed by Lucas Levi in 18th, in order to qualifying by Glazebrook. Onto the 10th row of the grid is Roman Quark, followed by Roland Moitin. And on the final row of the grid, the 11th row, Zachary Fitzwater and Rick Yan for Caterham. So that is the grid for the Italian Grand Prix. And as we move on to have a look at the weather, as you can see, it is set to be a wet race. So it is going to be light rain, however, but it doesn't look like there'll be much rain to start off with, but it will certainly start raining at about the half-hour mark. So this should be a very fascinating race indeed, depending on with regards to the weather, to see what strategies will be in place. So I'm very much looking forward to this, as we are set to go on towards the grid. And let's now have a look, and let's go on to the grid for the 12th round of the season. And let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's get right onto the grid. Set to be an interesting race. I'm very much looking forward to it. The Italian Grand Prix has always been quite a good race, I have to say. So it should be very, very interesting indeed. We've had, obviously, we had Miguel Gal winning with Toro Rosso back in 2008 after a very wet qualifying. So anyway, that is the weather for the race, and we'll now go on towards the grid. And now here we go onto the grid for the 2013 Italian Grand Prix. So look, that's the Force India. Is that the Force India? I'm not sure, but anyway, so 53 laps. The track being 5.7 kilometers in length. So now going to go on the grid, and now here we are. Jay McKenzie on pole. In second place is Florian Volker. Third place is Joseph Willis. Fourth place is Miguel Gal. Fifth place is Waze Kuba. The lights are about to go on. We have the old light. We have the usual light switch back as well, which is good. We now have 4 lights, and now we have 5 lights. Who is going to get the best start as we're underway for the Italian Grand Prix? We head down towards the first chicane. McKenzie's got himself a good start. The Red Bull Volker hasn't made a particularly great start. It's almost 3 wide for second place as they come into the first corner. Who is going to get second? I'm not sure. But it looks like Volker is just about going to hold on as they head into the first corner. Gallus in third, Willows fourth, Roke is up to 6th. He's just getting ways Cougars. There's a McLaren that's lost his front wing. That's veteran Vidrine has lost his front wing. William Duncan in that new liveried Toro Rosso has lost his front wing as well. Jackie Fitzwater's there in last, but it looks like apart from the crash, no one is out at the first chicane. But what has happened at the first corner will be interesting to see. So let's go on board with veteran Vidrine. Did he? Oh, he got hit from behind and he went into the Lotus. And was it William Duncan who hit him? And no, it wasn't. It was in fact Ricky Hartmann, and William Duncan went into the back of the Sauber there of, I believe that was De Rossa. And no, in fact it wasn't Duncan, it was actually Franco Gamba who went into the back of De Rossa. And unfortunately for Gamba, he's going to have to go into the pits in his home Grand Prix. That's pretty devastating to say the least. But anyway, so the Dream's going to have to go in the pits, so is Gamba. And there's Carr and there's Glazer going by, but it's not the race he would have wanted as the car's going through the second chicane. So far everyone is still racing, no major collisions yet as Ricciardo trying to get through the traffic, but Mackenzie's already got himself a lead. Gal's already right behind Volker as they come down the back straight out the two Leslers heading towards the Ascari chicane. For the first time, Roke's right behind the Ferrari of, I believe that is Joseph Willows, and Roke's made a fantastic start and he can't quite make it through, and Roke's already up into 4th place, so he's gone from 8th to 4th in the first one. That's a great start by the Mercedes driver. There's Wade Cooper in 6th, Ionescu 7th, Southgate in 8th, Will Miller in 9th position, as Cooper's now right behind his teammate Joseph Willows, who's struggling really for pace at the moment, and he must have a different fuel strategy or a higher fuel strategy, but don't know. But Wade Cooper does indeed go past Willows coming down into the parabolic, and now here comes Robert Ionescu, who's coming down the front straight to go past Joseph Willows down the front straight, heading towards the first chicane onto the second lap. Willows, as you see, has got a heavy fuel load, 35 laps of fuel, as Willows now tries and attempts to go back past Ionescu coming into the chicane. He gets alongside Ionescu. Is he going to get it back? And the answer is no, he doesn't, and Ionescu has the move done and dusted there. But of course, as you can see, as you can clearly tell, the track is currently dry, so at the moment there is no chance of any rain yet, but we have to wait until about 30 minutes into the race, so I reckon probably about maybe lap 15, 20, between lap 15 and 20 I think. Around about that mark is when we're going to see some of the weather, so that will be very interesting to see, to say the least, as now we look at William Duncan running in 9th place. David Greenwood's moved all the way up into 11th place, that's a great start from him, as he's now pressuring Alex Southgate for 10th place as they come through the second Lesmo. Onto the back straight here. Now Will Miller is attacking Joseph Willows, who's rapidly falling down the field. Gal still can't quite get past his teammate Volker, and that's going to fall back in the clutches of Roke, as now Nella makes a move on the inside of Willows, who goes a bit wide, coming into the Ascari chicane. That's going to give Duncan a chance. Now he's being absolutely swamped, is Joseph Willows on the second lap, as now we have a collision, and that's Alex Southgate who's off at the Ascari chicane. And Oliver Glazebrook, the other Sauber driver, has been involved, and they were battling here. Greenwood on the inside, and oh no, looks like he just went wide there, did Southgate, and whoa, look at that. Slides right in front of Glazebrook, and somehow Greenwood gets away with it and avoids any contact. So he's now moved up into the points as David Greenwood. That is a good start. So Greenwood's on the inside, and just no room for Southgate, went wide, and somehow Greenwood got away with it. And that's going to give him a good advantage in 10th place, and Southgate is going to have to go into the pits, and that is going to badly affect his race, that is for sure. If you're looking at Oliver Glazebrook running in 13th place, I should say, as we're looking at Southgate, who's now going to rejoin in standard last. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets lapped fairly soon after the pit stop, considering the guys have already probably got to the Lesmos by now, I reckon, as we're now looking on board with George Roke, who we're looking at a replay here. So George Roke was running in 4th place here. He's running in 4th place at the moment, and he's now getting past Florian Volker, who's been passed by Nicolas Gal, and now Gal is going to have to try and defend with Roke. They're heading to the chicane. Roke is set to go on the inside. Is he going to take 2nd place? And the answer is, has he got it? The Red Bull was a little bit wide. Has Roke got the position? And I think he has. And now it's a Mercedes 1-2. What a start by Mackenzie and Roke, who have got, and especially Roke, who's moved up 6 positions. And what a start that is, as now Gal's attacking Volker and does take 3rd position off him. And now Wade Cooper is right behind as well. And now so is Robert Ionescu. We've got a nice battle here going on as Cooper tries to get past Volker coming into the first Lesmo, but sadly that move is not on as they come now into the second Lesmo. Cooper tries again, and I don't believe that will be on. And, oh, look at this gaggle of cars in the battle for, I believe this is for 7th place. So this is, I think, Volker is falling rapidly down the order. Willers now tries to get down the inside of Volker, can't quite do it. Armagh Carr's there, William Duncan is there. David Greenwood is there as well as they're coming Now down the front straight, they're all so close to each other. Slipstream Central, Carr tries to get on the inside of Willows, he can't do it. And there's now almost 3 wide, and now Duncan almost gets into the back, into the side of Greenwood. Battles, they're moving all over the place down the straight as they come into the chicane, and Duncan hits the back of Carr, who then hits Volker into the chicane, and Volker has lost rear wing, and there's a Williams around at chicane, and he's taken out his teammate. I don't know who that is, but one Williams is out, and now one Williams goes into Volker, who somehow keeps his front wing, but he still lost his rear wing nonetheless, and that is Roman Quag, who is out of the race. So it was Relo Moitin, the one who was around into the chicane. So we need to have a look at what just happened. The Green was on the inside. Duncan went into the back of the Force India of Omar Carr. He tried to get on the inside of Willows there and lost some momentum, and he went right in front of Duncan there, who was not particularly, I don't think, happy with that. But coming into the chicane, and Duncan just caused a major accident there. I imagine he will get a penalty from that, and from the words of my ears, he's set to get a 25-second penalty for that decision. And unfortunately, Moitin, who's spun on the chicane, and Quagga unfortunately nowhere to go, and unfortunately has taken out his teammate there as the Caton just goes running outside of him there, and then Moitin, for his troubles, goes into Volker. But let's go on with Volker coming into the chicane. So he was dropped a lot of weight. He's got a heavy fuel load, and he gets punted into the chicane. Nothing he can do about that. And then sadly has to wait for all the cars to go past as the yellow flags come out, and he rejoins, does Moitin, sorry, and then just goes into the front of Volker there. Somehow doesn't lose his front wing as well, but that's not good for Volker, who just took the lead of the championship. So that's going to be great news for Ionescu, for Nella, for Mackenzie, for Rope. It's going to be great news for them as well. As it goes wide, coming into Parabolica. He loses his front wing, and he's now going to have to go into the pits for a new one, and that is a disaster for the British driver in terms of his title contention. He's struggled this race so far. He was running in ninth. It's been a silly, uncharacteristic mistake coming into Parabolica, went wide. A number of drivers have done that and loses a bit of his front wing. Fortunately, he's right by the pit, so he'll be able to get that fixed immediately. So I imagine, as I said, they'll do a different strategy for him, I should say. But let's see what happens. And as he goes into the pits, and Zachary Fitzwater's out, and Zachary Fitzwater has crashed coming out of the exit of the Parabolica. Has he done exactly what Willows has done? I believe he may have done. Let's have a look at the replay, and I think he has. He was running in 12th place with Fitzwater, and coming through the right-hander. As he came through, and yes, you can see he just goes wide onto the grass, and this time just gets into the wall and wrecks the side of his car, and that is Zachary Fitzwater's race done and dusted. Unfortunately for Fitzwater, he's so far, as well as Lucas Levi, the only two drivers yet to score a point so far this season. It's not been a good season so far for Zachary Fitzwater. It's just not gone his way at all, really. And that is another race over, and another race pointless for the Australian drivers. Now, Joseph Willows does indeed come out the pits. 32 laps of fuel he's still got, so he'll have to make one more stop. But I imagine he'll probably have to make one earlier than that. When the rain comes, as we're now looking at Florian Volker, who was running low down the order and who's actually had to go into the pits again. And Volker looks like he's done the exact same thing that Fitzwater and Willows have done. There must be something down there for these guys to be making that mistake, but Volker has gone wide, and I think he must have lost his front wing, has he? And yes, he has. And Florian Volker, if he had any chance of points, he certainly doesn't now. He's now going to have to go into the pits for a new, and had to pick for a new front wing, and Volker is now absolutely stone dead last. It's been a disastrous race for the championship leader, and as I said, Ionescu, Rope, Mackenzie, Nello, Willows, Kuba will be absolutely delighted, and Gal as well, will be delighted with how things are going, as now David Greenwood, who's up to P7 after all that chaos, he's avoided all of it so far, and he's running in a fantastic points playing position as he now comes in for his first pit stop of the Grand Prix. Now, it'll be interesting to see. I said I've predicted around lap 15 to 20. I reckon it'll probably be nearest the 20 mark, I reckon, when the rain will start to come.
No pressure.
So it'll be interesting to see what the cars that come in early. Rick Yan has also come in as well for Caterham. And let's see how quick his stop will be. 17 laps of fuel, but he'll still have to pit. Well, it'll essentially be a 3-stopper, I guess, depending on if they fuel him to the end after when the rain comes, or depending on how hard the rain comes. Now Oliver Glazerick comes in for another stop for Sauber as they come into the pits. Oliver Glazerick comes in, a 5-second stop, and let's see where he comes out on track. George Rope comes in now for his first stop of the race, so he comes in, I think, before his teammate does. So on lap 14, there's no sign of the rain as of yet. So Roke comes in. It'll be interesting to see when all the top guys decide to come in, but Roke is the first one to blink. And let's see how quick his stop was. 6-second stop. And let's see where he comes out on track, actually. So he's in P6 right now. Will he come out ahead of Duncan or behind him? And he'll come out, looks like, ahead of William Duncan. And yes, he will. So Roke's going to come out in some clear air. So it's worked out pretty well for him so far. Essentially, because Levi, he's actually running in P8 right now. So he's also running in a good position. As we're now looking at Oliver Glazebrook's teammate De Rosa, who is set to come into the pits. And let's have a look and see how quick this stop will be. And let's see. So De Rosa, so he's certainly had a good season so far. De Rosa, he's outperformed his teammate Oliver Glazebrook. He's had a few good races, consistently scored points. Although Glazebrook has actually technically scored more points finishes than him, but De Rosa has finished higher up in the order, so to speak. So let's see where he comes back out onto the track. 2.4 second stop, so he comes out outside the points. Now Nicolas Gao comes in for his first pit stop of the race onto lap 16. So I imagine George will come out ahead of him, and so has Waze Kuba and I think Ionescu, so they've all actually come in on the same lap. And let's see who's going to come out first. Will Gao come out ahead? And yes, he does. And Kuba comes out second and Ionescu third, so in pretty much the same order they came in, they came out. And so Gao comes out ahead of Kuba, who comes ahead of Ionescu, and now William Duncan's going to come out onto the track, and he comes out actually ahead of Ionescu. Will he come out ahead of Kuba? And Duncan tries to make a move on the inside. Is he going to make it? Very nearly contact, and they just about get away with it, and Duncan can't quite make the move stick there, but he's now right behind Kuba, but he'll be on pressure tyres, so Kuba should be able to get the hammer down, but it's still obviously cold right now. Duncan trying to make a move as they come through the right-hander, and he's going to make a move on the inside. Duncan tries to make a move, there isn't any room there, and they make contact, and Kuba loses his rear wing. That was a silly mistake by Duncan. The move was never really on. He should have ideally backed off. Ionescu and Gao make their way through, and that is bad news for Kuba with regards to his title contention. I mean, Duncan tried a move there which was never really on, and where the contact was right about there. And unfortunately for Kuba, he's going to now have to pit. That's going to have big implications on the championship. That is good. That is slightly more good news for Volker, but still that is better news for Gao and Ionescu for sure. So this has been such a fascinating race already, and we've only been 16 laps, and now Duncan makes his way past Kuba, but Duncan is, I imagine, going to receive another penalty. Now I am getting word in my ear, he is going to be receiving another penalty, so he's going to be receiving a 15-second penalty, means he now overruns a 40-second penalty for the race, as now Will Neller comes in for his first stop of the race, a 6.9 second stop, so a little bit slow there from the Lotus team. And let's see where he comes out onto the track. So he comes out ahead of obviously Wade Kuba comes in. Duncan obviously comes in as well to change his front wing. No sign of the rain as of yet. Ionescu and Gao have not yet pitted, and that's actually good news in a way for George Roke, which means he has let one less guy in safe from McKenzie as well. They both have one less person to deal with. They're looking fairly good out front, the Mercedes, as Lucas Levi now comes over in 7th place, but he still needs to pit. Duncan comes out behind Kuba in 10th place. Now looking into the first chicane, the two Ferraris of Kuba and Willows right behind each other. Kuba who's now right behind his teammate Willows as they're coming now down through the long right hand and heading towards the second chicane. Kuba's on the inside of Willows. He's obviously struggling with some damage after the early crash he had. And Kuba now makes a move down the inside and now makes it up into P9, and that is a position up for him. Carr is now right behind Willows for 11th position. Duncan is right behind, so you better be careful there, Carr, because now got Duncan to contend with behind as well. As now Carr is making this move on the inside of Willows, who's really struggling this race. It's not going very well for him at all, and he's now set to make the move for P10, and he does indeed make the move for the last point spot on the board. So Willows took under them, and now Willows got to contend with Duncan behind him. But Ricky Harkison goes a bit wide coming into the chicane, comes out just ahead of the Williams there. As now Jamie McKenzie does indeed come and make his first stop of the race on lap 20 and 4.9. That was a pretty quick stop, that was. Certainly quicker than Roke's stop, that's for sure. But George Roke now does actually come out in the lead. So George Roke now takes the lead from Mackenzie, but Mackenzie will come out in a clear second place ahead of Gal. Is now into the pits comes Veteran Vedrina, and 4.5. I mean, he could have gone for another lap there, but let's see how quick his stop will be as he comes in. And what tyres they put on? They put on the intermediate tyres. So around about this time where I suspected, it must have obviously started raining. The track does look actually slightly darker, so it clearly has been raining, and Veteran Vedrina is the first one to go onto the intermediate tyres. Now, how many people are going to react? You can see here, it now has got properly wet just 3 laps later. Amar Khan now comes in for another pit stop, and I imagine now everyone is going to start to come in. And so Amar Khan is in. Who else is going to come in? Roland Moishin behind him has decided to come into the pits as well, and I imagine they'll go onto the intermediate tyres. Amar Khan comes in. What tyres is on? Yes, the intermediate tyres. And Roland Moishin will come in as well, as Carr has to wait for Moishin to come in for his stop, and Carr comes out on the inters, and now George Roke on lap 24 is going to come in for the intermediate tyres. Southgate is also in and set to come on the intermediate tyres. There's a load of pit crews out, so everyone is going to pit this lap for the intermediate tyres, and Mackenzie kind of hung out to dry there a little bit, I must say. He's only 4 laps after he pitted. Did it start to rain, so they kind of cost him a bit there, but Roke will still come out with the lead, I believe, as he comes out the pits. A 5.7 second stop. Ionescu now comes in. Everyone, I imagine, will be in the pits. So Gal is in the pits as well, and as I said, everyone is going to be in the pits, although Volker still stays out. So Mackenzie, I don't think has pitted, so Mackenzie hasn't pitted, so Roke has, Ionescu has, Gal has, Nella has, as he's just coming into the pits right now. As he now comes in for a stop, and oh no, he's going to have to wait for his crew as they just served Robert Ionescu, and oh dear me, that is going to cost Nella some time. Oh dear me, that's not exactly what they would have wanted at all there, but I guess they didn't expect the rain to come, I guess, as hard as they probably expected. So Nella now finally gets his tyres on, and now gets his intermediate tyres on, and he now comes out of the pits. Waze Kuba now comes in for his pit stop. David Greenwood comes in as well. Everyone is going to come in, so the guys who have stayed out, I imagine, are going to lose some time. So Mackenzie is going to lose some significant time out on those dry tyres. William Duncan comes in for a stop, as we're looking at Joe Willis is coming in. So is, I believe that was Rick Yan, I think, is coming in as well. We're looking at Ionescu on third on the wet tyres, so there's not many out on dries right now. There's certainly more, so it looks like the first bit of the track isn't as wet as certainly other parts of the track. As Mackenzie comes in, Oliver Glazebrook is in, Willows was in, Rick Yan, as I said, was in, so everyone is now in. So how much time has Mackenzie lost will be interesting to see. Or has he, certainly on the dry parts of the track, but certainly there's more wet than dry, so hence why everyone has started to come in. So Mackenzie comes in for the wet tyres, and he now comes out, 5 second stop, and I don't know if he'll come out, and he won't come out, actually it will be close actually between him and George Roke, but I think Roke will just get out ahead. So where is Mackenzie? Just coming to the pit exit, so there goes Roke. So Mackenzie does come out actually, I have to say, probably a bit closer to Roke after the pit stops, as Mackenzie comes out in P2. So Ionescu is now actually P3, so he's got ahead of Kuba. Well, yeah, he already got ahead of Kuba. He gets ahead of Galson, and he's now up at the 3rd place. Lucas Levi still out on track on those dry tyres, will now finally come into the pits. So he's really gone out longer on those wets. Well, on the wets, on the dries, I should say, on a wet track. There we go, I've got it right that time. As he now comes into the pits, and let's see. Well, he'll obviously put on inters, but let's see where he comes out on track after. I wonder how much time he has lost, because I imagine he's lost more time than he has gained. And he comes in, and he'll now swap over to the intermediate tyres. And there we go. So he's in P6. Well, he was running in P5, so he's dropped down to P7, P8. Will he drop any more positions? So I think he might drop one more. I think he'll come up just between Duncan. Actually, will he come out ahead of William Duncan? It's going to be very close. And he does indeed come out ahead of Duncan, but will Duncan go on the inside? And no, he doesn't. Levi just defends the position. So Levi comes out in P8, just ahead of Duncan's. And that was, I think, Amar Khan in 10th position. But will Duncan try and move coming into the second chicane? He's just going alongside Lucas Levi, the Singaporean. He's now side by side, and Duncan gets the move for P8 into the chicane. And the answer is yes, he does. You can see it's coming into the Lesmos. It's certainly dry on this part of the track, but it's definitely the last sector where it's obviously very wet. It's now, and actually it's fairly wet down the straight. The rain you can see is clearly now coming down, so it is now wet on most parts of the circuit. De Rossa makes his way past Armar Kart for P10 for the last point spot as they now come onto the front straight. This has been a fascinating race so far, to say the least. So car now drops a position. Now we're looking at the Red Bull of Miguel Scal, who's running right now in P4. Miguel Scal goes wide. He's gone on wide on Parabolica, and he's got away without any incident. Fortunately, that could have gone a lot worse there for the Hungarian driver, but he's still on track. Crucially, that's going to lose him some time to Robert Ionescu in third place. Now looking at a big gaggle of cars as Rick Yan goes wide at the Parabolica. He goes wide and he's lost bits of his car, and that is Rick Yan out of the race. Oh dear me, Rick Yan makes the same fatal mistake that everyone has been making. And Ricky Harkchain's hit the debris from his car and has slammed into the wall, and that is his race done and dusted. And he's looking, and oh, Miguel Scal's hit the debris as well. Miguel Scal's hit the debris and he is out on the spot as well. Big implications again in the title fight. Oh my word! So Nicolas Gal is out of the race. Ricky Harkchain is out, and Rick Yan are out on the spot. But crucially in the championship, Nicolas Gal is out. And so for Volker, he's still out the point, so it's not really helping him right now, no matter what's happening. So he just got lapped by the Mercedes there, I believe that was George Roque, I think it was. And Yan just went wide, obviously caught the dirty air from Mercedes in front, lost a bit of his car, and then went into the wall. And unfortunately, it was that wheel just to the right of your screen that went onto the track, and Willows just avoided it, but Ricky Harkchain didn't, sadly, and went into the wall. And that was his race over. And unfortunately for Gal, he hit the wheel as well. And he comes in and he hits the other wheel just coming into pit entry. And he would have still stayed in the race. How unlucky that is for the Hungarian driver. But still, it will be fascinating to see what the driver's ranks will be like right now. But it's looking good for Mackenzie, for Ionescu, and for Roque, especially for Volker. Although it's not looking pretty, at least his title a couple of his title contenders have retired from this race, as now Robert Ionescu comes in for his final stop of the race. I don't imagine he'll make one more stop before the end. I think that would be a bit silly as he comes in for his final stop. And how quick is this going to be? It's still on intermediate tyres, as you can clearly see it's still raining. So it's 6.3, so it'd be interesting to see if he can get ahead of Mackenzie after the stops. It's still pretty wet out there, so it's certainly not getting any drier, that's for sure. Mackenzie now comes in for his final stop. And let's see if he comes out ahead of Ionescu or not. It'd be interesting to see if he does. I think this could be quite close actually. Ionescu has really come into this from nowhere, to be honest. He has had quite a good race today, Ionescu. Got fortunate with the Cooper. So there's Ionescu coming down the street. Is he going to get out ahead of Mackenzie? This could be quite close, but I think Ionescu could do it. And the answer is, I don't know where is Jay, and yes he has. So Ionescu has comfortably jumped Mackenzie in the stops here, so he's in a net P2. Could he actually win this race? Because I believe George Roque will need to make another stop before the end, and because I don't think Roque has stopped yet, so I think Ionescu is looking in contention for the win here, as we're looking at a battle between William Duggan and Alex Southgate for P9, and Roque is in fact pitting this lap. So this is going to be interesting. So Ionescu from nowhere really could be set to win this race, and wow, that could be a great victory for the Romanian driver. And it could have, as I said, big implications on the title standing. So, coming to think of it right now, so with Gal being out of the race, Volker being out of the points, Kuba, who's running down in I believe he's running in P5, I think. I believe he's running in P5. Ionescu's leading, and as far as I can remember from the standings, Ionescu is only a few points behind Kuba. So I believe, actually, Robert Ionescu, if he wins this race, I think he could take the lead of the standings here, as George Roque now comes into the pits for his final stop. So where is Ionescu? It's 22 point, I believe that is 6 seconds. I don't know, and I don't think that is going to be enough to get ahead of Ionescu unless he has a rapidly quick stop. He comes into the pits, and how quick is this stop going to be? 4.7, that was pretty quick to be fair. Ionescu's already coming onto the straight, so Ionescu is going to come out in front of George Roque and take the net lead of this Grand Prix, as there's Lucas Levi coming out the pits, and there is George Roque. So Roque's going to have Levi David, and Mackenzie also comes out ahead of him. So Robert Ionescu has snatched what looked like a very likely win from the Mercedes, unless they can catch up to him, unless Rook can maybe catch up and pass Mackenzie and then go after Ionescu. I'm not sure. As we're now looking at Joseph Willows in the Ferrari, who's attacking the back of Alex Southgate coming down the front straight, and he's now side by side with the McLaren. He's going to take P8 coming into the hairpin, and the answer is he's alongside, and surely he's got this move done and dusted, and yes he has. He moves up into 8th position. And we're now looking at Joseph Willows, who's actually coming into the pits for some odd reason, and he's going on to try tyres with one lap. Excuse me, with 1 lap to go. Okay, I don't quite know what Ferrari are particularly thinking here, unless they're, I just don't know. I mean, unless they got the wrong tyres out, I honestly don't have a clue, to be honest. But Willows now comes out of the pits on dry tyres, even though it clearly doesn't look dry in the slightest. So I don't quite understand what that was about. But here is your current race leader, Robbie Ionescu, coming around the Scarish game for the penultimate time. There is Mackenzie actually in the distance. There's only 1.9, so he's clearly closed up the gap as Mackenzie. And there's Roke also in the distance. But I believe unless Ionescu makes a mistake, that he is going to have this win in the bag. And I think he will take the championship lead, because you can see Nella's in 4th place. But he was behind George Roke anyway, so he'll stay behind. Kuba's running in P5. But Ionescu, I think, was only like 4 or 5 points behind, I believe. So I think Ionescu, as I said, will take the points lead as we now enter the final lap of the Italian Grand Prix. The gap is now down to 1.6. So Mackenzie is closing, but is he going to be able to do enough? He needs to hope Ionescu makes a slight mistake to catch up here. But Ionescu is going to keep it cool and take another victory here this season. And I believe actually, a little fun stat, I don't believe actually anyone who has taken pole position this season has actually won from pole, I don't believe. I'll check up on the stat after this race, but I believe that record will remain intact if Ionescu wins. As he comes around the second chicane, now heading into the 2 Lesmos. Kenzie's still 1.6, so I don't really think it's going to happen unless he gains massively. Looks like he is getting a little bit closer, but I don't think it's going to be enough. As Ionescu comes now down through the second Lesmo onto the back straight. There's Rope just coming around the second Lesmo as well, but he's not going to be able to challenge Mackenzie as he's too far back as well. As we're now coming into the Ascarish game for the final time, and it is down to 1.2 seconds, but it's still not going to be enough. So Ionescu's only got 1 more corner to go, the Parabolica, and then he will win from what seemed like a certain victory for either one of the Mercedes, either Mackenzie or Rogue. But Ionescu has snatched it off them by a great strategy, I should have to say. As Ionescu comes round the final corner, and Robbie Ionescu is going to win the Italian Grand Prix and take the points lead after 12 races. What a race it's been. Congratulations to him. He takes the win. 2nd place was Mackenzie, and 3rd place is going to be George Roke. 6th place will be De Rossa as he comes across the line. William Duncan was in 7th. David Greenwood will take another impressive points haul in 8th place. Amar Carr will come home in 9th position. And Lucas Levi will take his first point of the season, but William Duncan has got that 40-second penalty, so I think he will drop outside of the points. But we will see how it goes. But Lucas Levi takes his first point of the season, Moyton 11th, but he could have a point depending on how far Duncan drops after his penalties. Southgate 12th, Padrina in 13th. Will Nella is set to come across the line in 4th position, so that's still a good result for him. As now we look at Oliver Glazebrook in the Sauber, set to come across the line in P14, not been his race either. Waze Cooper there in the background will come across the line, and no, that's actually Joseph Willows there, comes across the line. Volker comes across the line behind him. Waze Cooper now set to come across the line in P5 for Ferrari. So as I said, I think Ionescu will take the lead in the standings as Cooper comes across the line in P5. Frankie Gamba now finally comes across the line in P17. As that is now the race over. So there we go. That was a fascinating Italian Grand Prix. But now we will take a look at the full race results and the driver's standing. So here are the full race results. So Robert Ionescu wins from Jamie Mackenzie in 2nd, George Roke in 3rd, Will Neller in 4th, Waze in 5th. So 5 cars only on the lead. That with De Rossa, David Greenwood, Amar Carr, Lucas Levi and Roland Moyton completing the top 10, with obviously Duncan dropping out the points with that penalty he has. So Lucas Levi takes his first points of the season for Marussia, meaning it's now only sadly Zachary Fitzwater who is the only one yet to score a point this season, as Robert Ionescu also set the fastest lap with a 0.4. As we now set to take a look at the second half of the standings. So Alex Southgate was indeed 11th, Vadrina was 12th, so Duncan dropped down to 13th with the penalty. 14th was Glazebrook, 15th was Willows, 16th was Volker, and 17th was Franco Gamba. With Mikolas Gal, Ricky Marquezine, Rick Yan, Zachary Fitzwater, Roman Quag, the drivers who did not finish this race. So that is the full race result of 53 laps. It was 1 hour 16 that Grand Prix, so I reckon it could have gone under 1 hour 10 minutes had it been dry. That's certainly a very quick race to say the least. But anyway, let's take a look at the points then. So as you can see, Robert Ionescu has in fact taken the lead by just 2 points ahead of Florian Volker in second. Waze Cooper in third on 123. Fourth and fifth is Mackenzie and Gower on 117. Roke sixth with 113. Will Nella, 7th with 109. Joseph Willows 8th with 94. Vadrina well behind with 47, with De Rosa completing the points in 10th with Marquezine, Holst, Carr, Southgate, Duncan, Quag, Gamba, Glazer, Moyton, Greenwood, Yan and Levi completing the rest of the point scorers, with Zachary Fitzwater the only one sadly yet to score any points this season. So in the Constructors, Red Bull lead by just 6 points ahead of Lotus, who themselves are just 12 points ahead of Mercedes. So that's still quite a fascinating Constructors battle. Ferrari just 13 points behind them. In Sainz, McLaren way behind with 87 points. In 5th place, Force India 6th with 53. Sauber 7th with 50. Toro Rosso 8th with 34. 9th is Williams with 32. 10th is Marussia with 14. And Caterham with 5 points. So there you go. That has been the Italian Grand Prix. I hope you guys enjoyed. That certainly was a pretty good race, I have to say. Don't forget to, as usual, vote for your driver of the day and give the race a rating out of 10. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you for the next round of the season, the Singapore Grand Prix under the lights at Marina Bay. So thank you for everyone for watching, and we will see you there. Goodbye.